Hi, if you're thinking of buying or selling a house on a private water supply in the UK, then this is a video that I strongly recommend that you watch right to the end. My name's Geoff. I'm co-founder and managing director of Spring Hill Water. We've been in business for 21 years now, and we specialise in private water supplies. I've got a master's in civil engineering. I'm a chartered water and environmental manager. I'm a chartered environmentalist. I have a moral compass and strong values. I'm making this video to try help people who are buying and selling a property on a private water supply. I'm not trying to sell you anything. So, where do we start? Well, you may have been told, if you're buying a property by the sellers, that the property's on a spring, or maybe some of the blurb provided by the estate agent says it's a spring. Springs are exceptionally rare in the UK. By far, the majority of private water supplies in the UK are either surface derived or they come from boreholes. I'm going to focus here on surface derived sources. Now, when we think of a spring, we think of this beautiful body of water underground that's pristine. Well, it's not like that. By far the majority of supplies are surface derived. Don't know if you can see behind me here. Water that's coming from the surface. Now, the thing to know about a surface derived source is the quality is strongly influenced by the weather. Looking at the water coming out there, it's on a frosty day like today, bright and clear, the water's clear. But after a snow melt, or if it were raining heavily, that would turn brown, because we're in a millstone grit area. So, you're thinking of buying a property on a private water supply, you're thinking of selling it. The first thing that you need to consider is getting the water tested. What does that mean? Get the water tested. Does that mean you get a kit from Amazon? Or do you give it to a company like ours, Spring Hill, or do you send it to a laboratory? Well, let me tell you the first problem. The first problem is water quality on a private water supply varies greatly depending on the weather. As a seller, you may want to go out on a nice sunny day, like today, and test it, test your source, and it will pass. Wonderful. But if it rained and you went and tested it at dinner time, the water quality could be completely different. So, yeah, get your water tested, but when are you going to get it tested? As part of my research, I completed a master's at the University of Leeds, and I studied my private water supply, and I could test in the morning, and the results were completely different to the results at dinner time, or maybe on the evening. That's the nature of a surface derived source. So you're going to get your water tested. When do you test? And if it passes, what does that mean? If it fails, what does it mean? What does it mean? And the truth is, if it passes, it tells you nothing, really. It tells you that the sample that you took passed, and it's probably not indicative of the water quality at other times. You see, the thing about testing, it's so hit and miss. You could have a barrel full of water. This reservoir behind me, you could take 30 samples and you get 30 different results, because the bacteria travel around in globules. So, you know, you might take a sample and it passes. One sample might have 10 coliforms in it and 4 E. coli. Some might have cryptosporidium, some might have Campylobacter. It's the luck of the draw, so it tells you nothing. So you risk assess. And just looking at this body of water behind me, if I'm going to risk assess it, the chances of it containing bacteria are exceptionally high, because dogs walk along the path, they defecate, sheep, you know, the rain comes, it washes it into the water. It's bound to fail. It's bound to fail at some stage during the year. I'm going to walk the other way because it's getting a bit windy. So testing. You may take a sample, send it to a laboratory, but you get the results back. What does it mean? What do the results mean? You might get a result back for iron, which is 156 micrograms of iron and 30 manganese. What does it mean? Does it mean the water's safe to drink? And interpretation of the results is a specialist thing. And if you think you're going to send your water off to a lab and they're going to send you back a letter or a report that says your water's safe to drink, think again. They won't do that. They will just say, we can only tell you what the results are for that particular sample. So we find that people get water sampled and then send it to the building societies, and they say, well, gets us no further forward. So there's the first complexity, testing. The next complexity comes when people Google it, buying and selling a property. What do? You end up coming across the private water supply regulations. Well, what do they mean? And I mean, I think it's about 40 different clauses on there. And to be honest, it depends on the type of property you've got. If you're a single dwelling that's served by a single source, then you sit outside the private water supply regulations. It means that you've got a human right to poison yourself and your family. But if it's an Airbnb, or if you're going to rent it out at some point, then the legislation kicks in, and it's quite draconian. The private water supply regulations are quite draconian. £2,000 fine or 2 years imprisonment. And yes, people do get fined, people do go to prison. It's frightening, really. And so it should be. You know, if you're renting out property, you can't be poisoning people or their families. But to me, the big question is, if I were buying a private water supply, a house on a private water supply, has it ever run out? Is it ever likely to run out? And the answer is going to be from the seller. How should I know if it's ever going to run out? All I can say is I've lived here for X amount of years, and this house has been here for 200 years. So of course there's always going to be a water supply, but that's not the case. Global warming, temperatures are sometimes we've reached 40 degrees C a couple of years ago. That means that temperatures are heading towards the climate in Spain, and they have a horrendous problem with waters in Spain, water shortages. So it's a really tricky question. If you ask a seller, have they ever run out of water, do you think they're going to tell you that, oh yeah, it runs out often? They're not going to say that. They're going to say, no, it's never run out. And the answer is, it probably never has, because when it gets really hot, or, you know, there's not been rain for a long time, they just cut back using water. They don't wash the cars, they don't water the garden, they don't have a bath, don't have a washing machine. So, of course, the water never ran out. But if you're buying a property and it's going to run low during the summer months, maybe you want to know, because living in a house for more than 3 days with no water is very uncomfortable. You can't flush the toilets. Yeah, you can get bottled water for drinking. You can get friends and send you washing to people's houses, even go to the public baths and get a shower. But flushing the toilets, it's not pleasant. So you don't want your water running out. Now, the thing is that if a water supply is running low during the summer months, the things that you can do, you can add storage. You can add 3,000 litres, 5,000 litres, but you need space to do that, and you're going to need a pump. So you're going to have to run a cable under the ground, or maybe put in a temporary supply, power supply. And at the end of the day, 3,000 litres of water weighs 3 metric tons. So it's got to be on a firm surface. So there are things you can do. And if I were buying a private water supply, a house on a private water supply, then I'd want answers to these questions. I wouldn't want surprises. But the problem is that many solicitors haven't got a clue. Building societies don't have a clue. And people are just Googling things. And I'm afraid this is sufficiently complicated for you to spend a lot of time on Google or Bing or whatever you're using, and you get nowhere. Artificial intelligence isn't going to get you very far on this particular subject. So, what am I saying? I'm saying, look, think about this. Consider the information that I've given you, and if it feels complicated, go over it again, make some notes, hand it over to somebody else who may have the time and the patience to realise what I'm saying. You know, I realise that when people buy a property, sometimes they take out their brains, put them at the side of the road and say, I just want it. I want it. It looks fantastic. Location, location, location. It must have water. It must have a power supply. There must have heating, or else there wouldn't be a house there. But as somebody who deals with the aftermath of such positivity, things can go horribly wrong. Anyway, my name's Geoff, West Spring Hill. If you've got questions, then ring us. It's 01422 833 121. We're happy to talk to you. You know, we've got a moral compass. As I say, I'm a chartered water environmental manager. I will talk to you as openly, as honestly as I can do. And just be careful of people with vested interests. They'll tell you all sorts of things. Anyway, I'm out. Baiting's down. It's January and it's absolutely stunning. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching.